Perhaps in this life, everyone will experience love at least once and heartbreak once. One day, the person we love the most will no longer be by our side. They may leave, or they may no longer exist in this world. And we stand there, in the cold void, asking ourselves, why does love hurt so much? In such moments, we often turn to all sorts of consoling words from friends, books, songs, and even distant philosophies. But there is one place where understanding is not just theory, but a practical path to healing, that is the teachings of Buddha. Buddha never promised us that life would be free from suffering. On the contrary, he began the entire path of practice by acknowledging this fundamental truth. Suffering, dukkha, is an unavoidable part of human existence. We suffer when we love someone we cannot have. We suffer when we lose the one we love. We suffer when we see them change, when they are no longer the person they once were. And the greatest pain is when our heart still holds the same love, but there is no one to give it to anymore. In the Four Noble Truths, that Buddha discovered after his enlightenment, suffering, dukkha, is placed first. Not to make us fall into despair, but to honestly acknowledge that, without understanding the nature of suffering, we will forever be trapped in the cycle of loss, expectations, and disappointment. Loving is not wrong. Missing someone is not wrong. Desiring to be with someone you love is not wrong. But Buddha teaches that what causes us suffering is not love, but the attachment, upadana, that comes with that love. We love and we want the other person to be ours forever. We become attached and we believe they will never change. We are happy and we fear losing that happiness. The truth is, everything in life changes. And when we cannot accept change, our hearts break, not only from loss but also from the inner resistance within ourselves. Buddha calls this dukkha vedana, the suffering born from not wanting what is happening to happen. One of the most touching healing stories in Buddhist scriptures is the story of Kisa Gautami, the woman who lost her only son. In her immense grief, she carried her child's body everywhere, begging people to help her bring him back to life. People sympathized but were helpless. Some directed her to Buddha. He listened, then instructed her to ask for a mustard seed from any house where no one had ever died. Kisa Gautami hurriedly went door to door, but at every house, she heard stories of loss, losing a father, a mother, a husband, a child. It was then that she realized she was not alone in her suffering. The pain was not hers alone, but a part of human existence. And because of this, she let go of her child's body, no longer clinging to what could not be kept, and began her journey of practice. From sorrow to enlightenment. When our hearts break, the world around us seems to fade and lose its meaning. We are swept up in intense emotions, pain, despair, anger, and sometimes a sense of helplessness. When we cannot change the reality, we ask ourselves, how can we overcome this pain? How can we avoid drowning in this loss? Buddha pointed out that suffering comes from attachment when we try to hold on to what cannot be held. When we love someone, or have something important in life, we often don't want to lose it. But what we fail to realize is, everything is impermanent, and when we try to hold on to it, we only make our hearts heavier. Buddha teaches, impermanence is the nature of all things. When you understand this, you will no longer cling to things that will change and pass away. When we cannot accept impermanence, when we still try to hold on to what has passed, our hearts will never heal. So, how do we let go of things we cannot keep? The answer lies in practicing compassion and wisdom. Compassion is the ability to open your heart and love not only those we care about but also ourselves in our most painful moments. When we face pain, we don't need to avoid it, but we must accept and love ourselves in that moment. Remember, suffering is an essential part of life, and when we face it with compassion, we will find our hearts lighter, even though the wounds remain. The next step on the path to healing is wisdom, the ability to recognize the truth about life. Wisdom helps us understand that it's not the loss that causes us pain, but how we cling to what has passed. When we realize that all things, All feelings are not permanent. We will more easily accept change and let go of what cannot be kept. Look at a flower that blooms and then fades. The flower does not try to hold on to its beauty. It understands that this is the natural law of all things. If the flower cannot keep its bloom, why should our hearts stubbornly hold on to feelings, hopes, and memories that must eventually fade away? Thus, Buddha taught that the path to healing begins with understanding impermanence and letting go. We do not have to forget beautiful memories, but we learn how not to let them dominate our present life. We do not have to give up love, but we learn to love without attachment. When we live this way, our hearts will gradually heal. And don't forget, healing is not about erasing pain, it is about learning to accept and live with it, so it no longer controls our lives. As Buddha taught, suffering is not the enemy, but the teacher that helps us grow. In the healing journey, you may feel lost, lonely, and unable to find a way out. But remember, in each of those moments, you are not alone. Buddha has shown us the way, and he is always present in each step we take, like a teacher guiding us, never abandoning us. Sometimes, just one small step, a gentle acceptance, can bring peace to our hearts. When our hearts break, we may not want to accept the truth. We don't want to face the fact that what we loved has gone, that life will never be the same again. We try to hold on, to fix things, and in those moments, our hearts become even more wounded. Buddha taught, suffering is not something we can avoid, but if we understand its nature, we will not be controlled by it. Suffering is not the enemy, but a part of life, an opportunity for us to awaken. When we understand that everything has a beginning and an end, and we accept that departure is a part of life, we will find peace in our hearts. So how do we accept loss without feeling endless pain or sinking into perpetual sorrow? The key is to learn how to live fully in the present, not dwelling on the past or worrying about the future. Living in the present is an important lesson that Buddha always reminds us of. He said that when we cannot let go of the past, pain will haunt us forever. But when we return to the present, we are no longer caught up in painful memories or future anxieties. To practice living in the present, Buddha taught us meditation, a powerful tool to help us let go and find peace in the mind. When you meditate, you don't need to do anything. Just sit still and return to your breath, listening to each breath of your own. We don't need to try to push away sad thoughts or feelings, but simply acknowledge and accept them as a natural part of life. Remember, pain is not permanent. It is like a cloud, it comes and goes. Only when we allow it to pass without clinging to it, can we find true freedom. As the Buddha said, only when we let go can the heart find freedom. Freedom is not about avoiding suffering, but liberation from attachment when we are no longer bound by the past, nor clinging to future hopes, but fully living in each present moment. Once we understand that suffering is inevitable and loss is part of life, we can continue the healing path by practicing compassion and forgiveness. Compassion is not only love for others but also love for ourselves in our most painful moments. Perhaps, when facing the pain of separation and loss, our hearts tend to blame and get angry at ourselves. We ask, why didn't I do something to stop this? Why wasn't I strong enough? These thoughts only deepen the pain, pushing us further into despair. Buddha taught, love yourself as you would love a dear friend. Forgive yourself, and you will find peace in your heart. Self-compassion is the first foundation for healing the heart. When you forgive yourself, you are no longer controlled by past pain and mistakes. Remember, we are not our mistakes, but the lessons we learn from them. When you face pain without blaming yourself, your heart will gradually find lightness and peace. At the same time, compassion for others is also vital. When a relationship ends and we feel hurt, we may become angry and resentful. We think the other person has hurt us, and we may believe we can never forgive them. But Buddha taught, anger only hurts yourself, no one else. Forgiveness is not for the other person, it is for your own heart. Forgiveness does not mean forgetting the pain or ignoring the hurt. It is an act of freeing the heart from the chains of anger and hatred. When you don't forgive, you're clinging to the pain and it only breaks your heart further. On the other hand, when you forgive, it's not to let the other person win, but to reclaim your own freedom and inner peace. In a well-known story from the Buddha, he taught forgiveness through the image of a man who had been insulted. When the offender came to apologize, the Buddha asked nothing of him but to realize, when you do not forgive, you are like someone drinking poison and waiting for the other person to die. Anger only harms yourself. Forgiveness is the act of relaxing the heart, no longer allowing pain and anger to control you. That is why forgiveness is freedom, freedom from suffering, freedom from past relationships, and freedom from the dark memories of the past. Sometimes, forgiveness is not easy, but it is an essential part of the healing journey. Forgiveness is a gift you give to yourself, not to the other person. When you forgive, you not only free yourself but also bring peace to those around you. One of the most important teachings the Buddha offered for healing is mindfulness. Mindfulness is not just a meditation technique. It is a way of living each day with awareness and clarity about what is happening in our lives right here. In the present moment, when our hearts are broken, we often get swept away by thoughts of worry, fear, and nostalgia. We judge ourselves, blame circumstances, and chase solutions outside of ourselves in hopes of escaping the pain. Yet in those very moments, the Buddha showed us that mindfulness is the way to return to ourselves, to recognize the pain without letting it dominate us. Mindfulness means living fully in each moment, without letting the past or the future rob you of peace in the present. When we sit and listen to our breath, we realize that only through awareness can we understand and feel the pain we carry, and from there, learn how to heal it. The Buddha taught, only when you truly live in the present moment can you understand the nature of suffering and find peace. Mindfulness doesn't mean avoiding painful emotions or negative thoughts. It means learning to accept and understand them without being ruled by them. When you are aware of your pain, it no longer has power over you. Try to practice mindfulness in your daily life. When you feel sorrow, instead of letting it consume you, pause for a moment, follow your breath, feel each inhale and exhale. You will realize that even within pain, peace is still possible. To practice mindfulness, begin with the small things. When you eat, eat with attention. When you walk, walk with awareness. When you speak, truly listen. With mindfulness, you not only heal your heart but rediscover the freshness of every living moment. The Buddha said, each step in mindfulness is a step toward freedom and happiness. When you live fully in each moment, your heart is no longer wounded by painful memories. We have explored the essential steps in the healing journey: accepting pain, forgiving, and living mindfully in the present. But this journey is incomplete unless we realize that peace does not come from outside, it arises from within. When the heart is broken, many of us feel as if we've lost an essential part of ourselves. We feel empty, lacking, and believe that only love, success, or recognition from others can make us whole. But the Buddha taught, happiness does not come from outside, it is a state of the soul. True happiness comes from deep self-understanding, from realizing that we are already whole within. And that pain is merely part of the soul's journey of growth. To heal, we must turn inward and realize we are not our painful emotions or others' judgments, but the freedom and awareness within our own soul. You don't need to seek love from the outside, because true love has always existed within you, an infinite energy ready to heal your heart. The Buddha said, if you seek peace, do not look out there, find it within your own mind. We don't need to be someone else or be perfect in others' eyes. We just need to be ourselves, sincere and at peace with what is. The healing journey is a return to yourself, realizing that you are always whole and always worthy of love. When you stop running from pain, you will find the natural peace the Buddha spoke of. One of the deepest teachings in Buddhism is the realization that everything in this life is impermanent. And nothing lasts forever, not even ourselves. That is why letting go is an important part of healing. When your heart is broken, When you feel the pain of loss, it's easy to feel like a part of yourself has been lost. We tend to cling to relationships, memories, and images of what we once saw as perfect. We don't want to let go because we believe that by letting go, we are losing a part of who we are. But in truth, letting go is liberation, not loss. The Buddha taught, attachment to anything in this world is the root of suffering. When you let go, you will discover freedom and peace. Letting go does not mean we abandon love or the important values in life. Letting go means not clinging to things that will no longer exist in this world, so we don't suffer from the natural changes of all things. When we understand that everything is impermanent, we stop clinging to what cannot be held forever. Letting go is learning how not to let pain control you. This helps you live fully in the present moment, without being clouded by the past or the future. In life, there are things we cannot control, like the departure of a loved one, changes in relationships, or unwanted situations. The Buddha advises us not to cling to these things, because when we do, we allow suffering to become a permanent part of our lives. Letting go doesn't mean you don't care or don't love. Letting go is the acceptance that everything comes and goes, and that you can love without needing to possess, without needing to hold on. Remember, when you let go of the things you cannot control, you truly open up a new space to live fully in each moment. By letting go of fears and hatred, you will find freedom and peace that you have never experienced before. The Buddha taught, let everything pass like the flowing river. You cannot hold back the water. You can only live fully in each moment. When we let go, we will no longer be held back by feelings of fear or attachment to painful memories. Anatta and letting go are the path to complete freedom. When you realize that you are not what you own, not your relationships or your external achievements, you will no longer feel lacking, nor feel that you are losing something. Only when we stop clinging to anything can we truly find freedom within ourselves. And that is when our broken hearts are healed. One of the deep roots of all suffering is the lack of love and compassion for ourselves. When our hearts are broken, we can easily feel hurt, abandoned, and lacking. However, the Buddha taught that true healing can only come when we open our hearts, offering love and compassion to ourselves, and through that, to others around us. Compassion in Buddhism is not about pity or sympathy, but about deep understanding and sharing in another's suffering without burden or pressure. Love and compassion are boundless sources of strength, not only healing our hearts but also creating a world of harmony and peace. When we love ourselves, we no longer judge or blame ourselves for past mistakes or failures. Self-love is the prerequisite for us to love and empathize with others. This does not mean selfish love, but rather respecting and caring for ourselves, understanding that we have weaknesses and pain but are still worthy of love. When the heart breaks, many people feel that they no longer deserve love. But the Buddha taught, everyone deserves love, whether strong or weak, whether happy or suffering. Compassion is not only empathy for the pain of others, but also forgiveness for oneself. We often tend to blame ourselves, thinking we are not good enough, not worthy of happiness. But in reality, love is unconditional, and self-forgiveness is the first step to open the heart and receive love from the universe. To practice compassion, you can start by listening to and understanding your own emotions, rather than ignoring or hiding your pain. Place your hand on your heart and say to yourself, I love you, I will take care of you. This is an act of love and compassion, so that you no longer feel alone in your pain, but know that you always have the support and companionship from within. When you truly love yourself, you will no longer feel lacking, and from there, your heart will open, able to love others without fear of being hurt. Compassion helps you recognize and understand that all beings, including yourself, are on a journey seeking happiness and freedom. Thus, pain will no longer be an obstacle, but a valuable lesson, helping you grow and open your heart. The Buddha taught, love all beings as yourself. Only when you can love yourself, can you truly love others. Love and compassion are the most powerful remedies. able to heal all wounds of the soul. With love and compassion, your heart will no longer be covered by pain, but will always shine like the light of eternal love. After all the steps taken, acceptance, forgiveness, letting go, and self-love, we cannot miss an important element to continue the healing journey: mindfulness. Mindfulness, or awareness in each moment, is a powerful tool that the Buddha pointed out, helping us escape from negative thoughts, anxieties, and life's suffering. When the heart breaks, our minds can easily get lost in painful memories, in fear of the future, or in the uneasy feelings we cannot escape. In these moments, mindfulness will be the key to bring you back to the present, helping you realize that painful emotions are only the flow of consciousness, not your true nature. Mindfulness is the ability to observe and be aware of what is happening in your mind and body without judgment or evaluation. When you are in pain from a loss, instead of allowing your mind to drag you into thoughts about the past or future, simply observe those emotions as part of your human nature. Let the pain be just a wave, coming and going, rather than letting it consume you and create prolonged suffering. The Buddha taught, live in the present moment, and you will find peace in each breath. Mindfulness is not a continuous state of comfort, but the acceptance and understanding of all emotions, whether they are feelings of joy or sorrow. When you apply mindfulness in life, you learn to accept whatever happens without needing to react or resist. You understand that everything is impermanent, and all feelings can change in each moment. One way to practice mindfulness is through meditation. Meditation not only helps you listen to yourself more deeply, but also frees you from unnecessary thoughts and emotions. In a meditative state, you will feel the stillness of the soul, where there is no distraction, no worry, and no judgment. You are left with your pure essence, a complete presence in the present moment. The Buddha pointed out, a mind not disturbed by external conditions is a free mind. It is in this mind that you will find peace. Mindfulness also helps you develop the ability to understand and empathize with others. When you live fully in the present, you not only understand yourself more deeply, but also begin to understand what others are going through. A peaceful mind not only helps you heal, but also creates a healing space for others to heal. With each breath, you can feel the connection and life unfolding within your body. You don't need to do anything to find peace. You simply need to breathe, be aware, and accept everything that is happening with you. When you live with mindfulness, you will no longer be caught up in anxieties. Instead, you will find serenity, a deep inner peace.